Hello and welcome one and all to another pulsating edition of the Back of the Nest Match Report. I'm your host Mike and I'm joined by Nick Gillard and Si Pizzi to look back over a night at Selhurst under lights that saw Brighton steal a point. Hello gentlemen, have we recovered from the annoyance of the game yesterday or the last minute of the game? Si, you haven't been on for ages.
How you doing? You're right. It was real mixed emotions, wasn't it? So for 94 minutes, I was on cloud nine and then total utter despair. As soon as the ref said, though, 5 minutes, I thought, oh, no, this is not good. But I had my COVID booster jab today, and I think that last minute was worse than the side effects I've had since I've had the jab. So I'm still feeling it like everyone else, I think.
Okay, well, if you deteriorate during the show, please let us know. Nick, have you sort of come away from the anger that you had yesterday evening?
Yeah, I wasn't really that angry, to be honest. It's just football, innit? It's shit. It happens. We turned them over last year in much better circumstances. The fact was they didn't beat us. They didn't go top. That's all I was worried about. Before the game, if you'd offered me 1-1, I'd have taken it. So it doesn't matter when they score the goal. It's a bit of a pisser when they do it. But what can you do? It's football.
Yeah, I was persuading myself that last night as well. That 1-1 I would have taken beforehand as I looked down sadly in my pint in the goat house at Norwood Junction. Before we get onto the game, let's just have a quick recap of Palace news this week. The under-23s played Friday night, lost narrowly to West Ham United. Watched the game on the Palace player. I thought we played pretty well. Whoever the commentator was on fire. I didn't get to see the under-18s on Saturday, who won 1-0 against Southampton. Mark Bright was the commentator for that, and the only conversation in WhatsApp chat was about his commentary. So, assuming that didn't go down very well. But yeah, the under-23s fought well against West Ham. I think they were unlucky to lose 1-0. The under-18s, did either of you gentlemen watch that game?
No, I'll be honest.
Great, excellent stuff. I
missed that one.
This is the kind of insight you come to us for as podcast listeners. Yeah, no worries. And the Palace women on Sunday lost on the 26th, I think it was, lost 2-1 away against Liverpool, which is no bad thing, really, is it? Let's be honest.
They got tonks last season by Liverpool, didn't they? So it's progress of sorts.
I mean, Liverpool, I think they came down the season before last. They've been a strong side. Bit of other news. Yeah. Scott Banks has made this Scotland under-21 side. Good for him. He's playing in the World Cup qualifier they've got coming up. That's exciting stuff. And new to us, just a few minutes before the pod recording, Palace have rearranged their game with AFC Wimbledon in the Papa John's Trophy. Very annoyingly for me, from the 5th of October to the 26th of October due to international commitments, which is half term. So those of you looking after your kids in half term, maybe get them to the game. But if you live far away, it is difficult, and it probably means I can't go, which is very annoying because I still have not been to Wimbledon's new grounds. I did go to...
So when you say international commitments, who's that? Who was Vieira planning to play then, that he can't play no longer? Was he going to get the Ghanaian prince to play just to give him some shooting practice or something? Or is there Wimbledon players that are internationals?
Let's not forget that Jaroslav Jak is a Poland international, and I think you should have some respect. I did go and watch the Sutton United 3-0 hammering, and it was dog shit. So there we go. I don't hold up much chance of them getting any points against Wimbledon. Right, that is Palace news this week. But I will leave you with a couple of tweets that have come up since the game. Yannick Bolasie, I'm just going to read it. I'm not going to do his voice, but he just wrote, just after the Brighton game, "Man are celebrating the draw like they unlocked some new level. Leave it out, lads. Bedtime for most of you." So yes, let's get on to the game. Nick, you were in the main stand as usual, I presume. Tell me about the atmosphere.
Yeah, it was fantastic in the family stand, Block J. Still not selling Palace Ale there. Come on, Parish, sort it out. Although they've got draft beer now, which is quite nice. Yeah, it was a really, really good atmosphere. I had a kid not sat next to me before. He looked like Gareth Southgate little brother. So that amused me for much of the game because he really did.
I mean,
look
how
like
old
him.
was he, and was he wearing a waistcoat? That's the two main questions.
No, but he did have a kind of a Gareth Southgate-y kind of duffly type affair coat, quite fashionable. But I didn't see a waistcoat under the coat, no. But he definitely gave off the Southgate vibe.
See, I think Gareth Southgate's got one of those faces where he actually reminds you of a lot of people.
No, he didn't look anything like him. I had a mate at school called Elliot May, who everybody looks like him. He looks like Marquis Smith from The Fall. He looks like Alan Shearer. He's even looks like Gary Lineker. How can the same bloke look like Gary Lineker and Alan Shearer? I don't know, but Elliot looked like everybody. Lookalike, I think, was his Viz character.
I
But
think
anyway,
we're
I'm
digressing.
digressing.
We're digressing slightly. Presumably, as you live in Leicestershire, for those uninitiated about your life, you weren't at the game. Did you watch it on TV?
I watched it on TV. It was fantastic. The atmosphere came in loud and proud, and actually the commentators, and they normally do because we're great all the time, but really, additionally focused on the volume of the crowd. And literally, it was hard to hear the commentators at times, and they have obviously special kit to avoid that. It was really fantastic, and it just made me buzzing to be coming down on Sunday for the Leicester game. I can't wait to bring everyone down. It was really, really, truly a memorable night. It looked like under the lights. I think it was the first time under the lights, was it, for a long time?
As far as I can remember, ages. Are you gonna blag a lift with Leicester? You're just gonna jump in their coach and get a lift?
I'm taking my father-in-law, uncle, big Leicester fans down in my tiny Peugeot 107. So if we don't win, it's going to be a horrible journey home. So I'm fingers crossed we do the business on Sunday. Otherwise, that tiny car is going to be challenging on the way home for sure.
I hope you get some petrol, Nick.
You don't have to give him a lift back, you know that, don't you? You were at the start when the players came out. You had that fantastic display in the HF bit. I presume that you were under the flag when all the flares were lit and whatnot. Well, can you describe what it was like under there for us, please, Mike? Because it looked quite good.
For those that haven't met me, and that's probably most of you, I am fairly tall, so naturally I was one of the people holding it up because I'd put my hand up to hold it up, and then everyone realised that they couldn't reach it, so I was just standing there, Atlas style, holding it up for my area, and then I saw some flares a couple of rows below me, and I thought, never been prouder. It was beautiful, absolutely loved it. Got my voice back for the pods. I was slightly concerned I wouldn't. I mean, you knew it was going to be an amazing atmosphere, and it took about 25 minutes of the game for us to even hear the Brighton fans were there. Actually, I just want to digress slightly before we go into the game. I want to talk about Brighton fans. One particular Brighton fan. I'm not going to give his name, but he initially had taken to Twitter to have a moan about Selhurst Park. Let me get the words up for you. Selhurst Park is an absolute shithole. It's an absolute dive of a community. The stench is unbearable. The design is beyond tragic. And Josef Fritzl's Conquest probably had a better view out of their rooms than we did. Imagine being proud to call that your home. And then he tagged both Brighton and Palace, which I think was quite stupid because it led people to do a bit of diving into this guy. And somebody found a tweet from him in 2012. As a United fan, I've got to admit I love watching Chelsea play when they've got this conviction and confidence. So, a Brighton fan, we found actually a United fan. Good work to those people that did some digging. He's now gone private on Twitter, but if that doesn't sum up Brighton fans, I don't know what does. Let us get to the game, though. We're going to cover...
Sorry, the guy lives in Hastings, and he's slagging off Norwood. I'm sorry, but I can't be having that, mate. I know you live there, but, it's double standards, surely.
I mean, I don't live there through choice. I live there because it's fucking cheap. But yes, I mean, it could be double standards. It is quite picturesque on a sunny day, I will say that. But as is Norwood, let's be honest. Right, a lot of people wanted us to talk about Vincent Greta, but we will leave that until the end. We're going to go over what you guys wanted to talk about, mainly because I was working today and I didn't write the show doc properly. So let's start with discussion on composure on the ball from all players, Nick. I think you wrote that. Talk about what you mean by composure last night, because if we take the ratings on whoscored.com, we actually came off worse than Brighton. I don't know how that's possible, but talk us through it.
We just didn't look phased at all. some of the sort of cushioned headers that Gay did. Um, we had players charging at us, and we just pass it, and we weren't bothered. We just looked so relaxed. It was like they were thoroughly enjoying the game, and they were allowed to express themselves. It's like they'd had shackles taken off of them, and they just didn't seem scared at all. It was such a pleasure to watch. They just didn't seem phased at all, and that was the consensus around us. It was just we looked like we knew what we were doing, and we were full of confidence, especially in the first half.
Well,
I haven't
let me
seen
just
us
play
like that
devil's
for a
advocate
long
on
time.
that. Let me play devil's advocate and say that the reason we brought on the substitutes that we did, the reason Vieira made those decisions was because he was scared towards the end. Maybe Si, what do you think? What did they say on TV about it?
They were effectively saying that he was as you said, he was shoring up. So he was bringing on, quote unquote, the less expressive players to bring some grit back into the team. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because I agree with you, Nick. I had at no point did I have any fear that we would get caught out, that we would lose the ball. We just looked assured and actually going back and forward with such confidence. But you're right, Nick. I think maybe the rose-tinted glasses were coming on a bit because the commentators were focusing on the need to make those subs to shore us up, which was interesting because it's not what I was seeing. So I was with you, Nick, but I think as you said, Mike, there is an alternative view that perhaps we weren't as strong as we all thought we were.
I think you're totally right. Composure on the ball. Anderson and Guehi just each game impressed me more and more, and they do properly play out from the back. You wanted to talk about his long ball skills. I mean, to me, they've got everything. And as much as I've thought that probably Tompkins and Sacco was the best back pairing I can ever remember, I think by the end of the season, I'm going to have changed my mind to these two gents. Anderson is he's a different level, isn't he? And let's give him big props for the fact that he went onto Instagram after the game to voice how pissed off he actually was. What was it about his long ball game that particularly impressed you, Nick?
It's just so accurate. It's just really good at picking out a pass. I think Maka played some excellent long balls, as did Luca, but he just seems to see people that nobody else does. And the passing is like the players don't have to move to receive the ball. It's just so good. And he's so commanding back there. I want to marry him. He's that good. You're talking about defensive partnerships. I'd go back as far as Eric Young and Andy Fawn for brilliant partnerships, and I think Gay and Anderson are going to be as good as them. So I go back a bit further than you, but the older gits amongst us will know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean,
agree with you, Nick.
That's high praise indeed. And I think that the two left and right backs were pretty damn good as well. I remember Ward pinging a ball off to the left that was absolutely inch perfect. You wanted to talk about Mitchell, about how much running he did. I haven't got stats for the running. If you wanted to talk about it, I hope you've gone and looked exactly how many kilometres he did actually run during the game. But yeah, tell me what worked, because I didn't think that we created quite enough, and you seem to think that we did, and it came from Mitchell. So,
well, the how much running did he do was a rhetorical question, so that's what gets me out of that.
That's a good way. So you don't have to actually do any homework. That's excellent, good work.
Yeah, no, but he seemed to be in the opposition box quite a lot, didn't he? And overlapping, and he and Wilf seem to be getting a really, really good understanding. I've put in the show note. Well, let's just mention Ward. You've praised him, and actually I'm going to praise him as well, because he's been the scapegoat recently amongst the fans around me. There's always going to be one player that we pick on to have a moan about. But as the game went on, people stopped and thought, actually, he's doing all right here. But whether it's him and IU that's the problem or not, Mitchell and Wilf have got a brilliant understanding. It's just a bit of a shame that Wilf didn't swap sides as he has done in the past, but that's because he hasn't got a Townsend to swap with. But Mitchell is just coming on leaps and bounds, isn't he? Every week he seems to get better, and the confidence not only to take on players, but to put cheeky little balls in, know when to pass, know when to stop, just hold up play, look around before he makes the pass, know when to make the run. You're just seeing progression every week. And I'd go as far as to say he's going to be better than Wan-Bissaka. So it's good that he went to Man United. Hyperbole, sorry.
Them on either side would be pretty impressive. Well, if we talk about passing accuracy, so Joel Ward had a passing accuracy of 75, Tyreek Mitchell 80, Anderson 80, and then Guy 90, nearly 91. I mean, impressive stats considering there's some long passes there, as you say, and ridiculous amount of passes. They all averaged nearly a touch a minute. Considering Brighton did absolutely sweet FA in our third for quite a large part of the game, it just shows that they are very comfortable passing around from the back. And it was a very intensive, impressive display. I know that last pod, even though we lost 3-0, it was the four defenders that you really wanted to highlight, Nick. So is it that our defenders are now the key to our attacking?
Yeah, you could be right there, because they're coming forward, aren't they? And they're drawing players out from the centre, and it's giving Gallagher that room to maraud through. And when you look at how Luca and Maka played yesterday as well, it was just everybody played as a team. Everybody passed really well, and it was almost, other than scoring a goal, it was almost a complete performance, I thought. So yeah, the defenders are helping the attacking, and we're not sitting back like we did under Mr. Hodgson. That was the other thing people around me were saying, it was just how stifled we must have been over the last few years. All right, we've got a younger squad now, but it's just like watching a completely different team. It's like we've changed the team we go and watch. It's that different and that much better.
Well, I mean, so we've got 15 minutes in before we mentioned Roy.
Sorry.
I mean, starting right from the back, I mean, Anderson's fantastic. I mean, I was going to say the same thing as you, Nick. I want to marry him. And that's the first person I've said since Kabai's left that I have that level of emotion for. He's fantastic. And when he threw...
He's not as good looking as Johan Kabai. Come on now.
He's got it, mate. He's got it. And you know, when he threw that little... I'm not going to mention his name, but when he threw the little toss pot on the floor in the first couple of minutes of the game, that was fantastic. I mean, that for me was one of the highlights of the match, seeing him fall on the floor after Anderson literally picked him up and threw him down. And his long-range passing is just immense. And then every time people write off Joel Ward, he has some sort of reincarnation, and he's turned into the player who's delivering crosses into the box. He's actually part of the attack, which is, I know, often has been criticism of him, but also he's actually blocking crosses as well. So never write off Joel Ward. And I think Mitchell said himself, didn't he, in his Palace TV interview, that he forgot how to attack because that's not what he'd been allowed to focus on, and it's clearly something Vieira's working on with him. So actually, I mean, the back is, as you said, Mike, the back is setting the tone for the rest of the team, and it's really impressive to watch.
Joel Ward's a lesson for us all that the love of the Lord really does keep on giving. Let's all remember that, shall we? The stats for the game actually quite surprised me. I thought we'd had a lot more shots than Brighton. It turns out we'd both had 8, which is less than it seemed. I thought we'd had sort of double that. And a few people commented in various places that I saw this morning from a neutral's perspective that the game was actually crap. So fair enough. Yeah, we had 8 shots against their 8, but ours were from open play and theirs tended to be from set pieces. We did definitely give away a fair few fouls. But the one thing one of you wanted to discuss was, are we having trouble scoring from open play? We're creating the chances. What is it that's stopping the goals going in? Is it a short-term thing? Because I think so far this season, we've scored more than perhaps I'd expected from the first half dozen games. So what is it? Is it an issue? Are we making too much of it?
I don't know. It's not like Edouard wasn't getting into positions, but he didn't seem to be able to get many shots away. I can't put my finger on why it is, because we're building up. Maybe we are building up slowly, because what I did notice, especially in the first 20 minutes, we had a lot of the possession and a lot of the territorial advantage. Brighton were getting the ball up very, very quickly and getting a chance away. So we were taking far too long. maybe we don't have the speed that we used to have. Not sure. I think Simon wants to add to that. I can't put my finger on why it is, but it does seem that open play scoring seems to be lacking somewhat.
I mean, I can't tell you how much we've improved since Watford in the Cup away, when I sat there and had to watch us dominate the ball and look absolutely impotent in front of goal. So we're a million times better than there. But I think, so the commentators were commenting on the game throughout and saying how good Edouard's movement was and how he just weren't finding that vital pass to him. And they were commenting on it's going to take a few games for us to be able to, get into sync with the rest of the team. So I think it's improving, and I think it'll continue to get better. I'm not worried, given what we scored thus far being a lot better than I thought it would be. But I genuinely think Edouard's going to be a sort of 15 to 20 goal striker once he's fully linked in with the rest of the team.
Well, let's get on to that. Edouard to be replaced by Benteke, to me, didn't seem to work. I think it's been much more effective when Benteke started and Edouard's there later on to deal with some worn-down defenders. What was it that changed when Benteke came on? Was it purely nerves? The players seemed very angry. MacArthur ended up fighting old Sanchez after the final whistle. Were they just on edge because it was Brighton? And was Benteke the answer in any way? Because he didn't seem to do a great deal. I think he was in quite a thankless position. But what was it about Edward starting and Benteke taking over that didn't quite work?
For me, we went far too direct once Benteke came on. All that nice passing that I thought we were doing from the start of the game just dissipated, and we were pinging long balls up to him, and we weren't being able to retain the ball up top of the field. So for me, it was a psychological change when he came on. I don't know if it was a tactical change, but definitely a psychological change that we were hoofing rather than doing the great passing game that we had for the rest of the game. But you were there, Nick, so I don't know if you recognise that.
Yeah, he didn't seem to hit the ground running, old Christian, did he? It takes him a little bit of time to get into a game, I think. So to come on as a sub, not sure it suits him as a player. I'm really not. I did like Kouate's impact as a sub. His first move was a Kouate chop, so he had to get in that and brought one of their players questions to the ground. But it did impact the way we played. You can see why he's brought him on, because he's a defensive forward, isn't he? He will win those headers in the penalty area when we're defending. It seems that Vieira thought, right, we're not going to defend from the front anymore. We're gonna sit back, and I think it says a lot about Brighton's fitness that they were still able to keep going at 90 minutes, and perhaps that's where we were lacking. We'd tired ourselves out a little bit, and that's why we dropped back when we did. But Benteke, I don't think he can be an impact sub. I really don't.
Got the impression from Vieira's post-match that he, reading between the lines, he wasn't quite happy with his tactics. And I think he's probably learnt from that. The fact that we were dispossessed 23 times during the game, I'd love to know how much of that was after the substitutes. But if the long balls were going up, as Si said, it's probably something to do with the fact that we just couldn't keep hold of it. And that's why we were getting dispossessed so much. Some of it's nerves, of course, but I do think he's going to learn a lot from that game and perhaps maybe not make quite the same decision again. It just felt to me, and bearing in mind I was about 7 points in, standing in the singing section, it just felt to me like a bit of a throwback to last season when they came on, and I had a feeling of dread, albeit I had some beer, and that really, really helped me not get too worried. What people want us to discuss is Jordan Ayew. So obviously, people always think that the solution to a problem is an untested option. And Elise, okay, he was excellent in the Championship. So far, he's untested. And I trust Vieira's decision-making in everything he's done so far. Why is it that people like, let's quote you, Paul Nash on Twitter, thank you very much for getting in touch. Why in fuck's name of fuckery is Ayew still starting? Surely Elise buries that chance. Let's discuss that chance, gents, because I think we know what he's referring to. But more than that, why is Ayew still starting? I will say Elise, as I say, is slightly untested at the moment, but there are other options. What is it that's making him keep his place? Si, start with you.
So the commentators throughout the game were saying about how underrated IU is and how important his work rate is for the team and how he supports other team.
Who were the commentators out of interest?
Oh, I'll have to find that. It was bear with me. I'll feel as I search. But no, but in essence, they were basically saying how underrated he is and how they think he's a bit of a scapegoat for Palace fans. And a funny story, I was at work today and I've got a Ghanaian team member and I was about to she said, "Well, what do you think of you?" And as I was just about to say how awful I thought he was, she was saying he's such a lovely man. Him, his brother and his father, they do so much for the community. And I thought, oh God, how do I start to say he's absolutely awful now? So I had to say great player, fantastic, because I was put on the spot. But I think overall, I think Vieira's picking him because of the fact that he will work his socks off. And it's interesting because I don't think it's in keeping. He's showing more of the old Roy tactics and the Andros before he went to Everton tactics rather than what the rest of the team is displaying. But I don't know why he's starting. I'd start Elise for sure, but it seems to be his work rate that's keeping him in the team.
Nick, what's your thought?
95% pass success rate, 37 total passes, 35 of them were accurate. That's what he does. He keeps possession well, doesn't always make the best decisions. I think he's going through a touch of what Benteke went through last season and the season before, and suddenly everybody loved Benteke when he came out the other side. Okay, it's been 756 games since he scored or assisted. All right, I'm exaggerating a bit there. You know what I mean? But you do get the feeling that once he does get one, he'll get more. But the confidence has gone. I've rewatched that shot, that miss, and it's poorly struck, really poorly struck. And Benteke laid it on a plate for him. Nerves, who knows? But should we be getting nervous if you've played that many games in the top league in the country? Perhaps Vieira hyped the game up too much because he spent a lot of the time saying how important this game is for the fans. Now, other managers in the past, not just Mr. Hodgson, but people before that, have said they try and downplay that because they don't want that sort of thing happening. I'm just thinking perhaps on this occasion that the occasion might have got to them. You can see how fired up Wolf was at the end when they scored, couldn't you? How much it meant to him. So I don't know, but I think he's going through. Is it golfers call it the jits when they can't score, when they can't put a ball for toffee? I've got a feeling he might be going through a bit of that. But looking at his pass rate and his accuracy, he is important. He is being scapegoated a little bit, but as I've said before on this pod, when he was dropped and he came on a sub, he did a lot better when he came on. When he knows he's not indispensable, then I think he'll improve. Just needs a rest.
I think you've raised a really good point about the passing. It's easy. Obviously, he missed the chance, and that's what's in the highlights, and that's what sticks in people's brains. And when it's something of that magnitude, it's very easy to dismiss the player as having a poor performance. But those stats are impressive. I mean, Paul Nash goes on to say that he'd be happy with Raksaki or Banks or literally anyone else, even his nan, who's been dead for 10 years. I think you're right. Probably IU needs a rest, but I can never diss the Ghanaian Prince. He's done so much for this club. It was an absolute bargain at whatever it was, 2.4 million. I think it probably is time to give him a game off, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's left out for Leicester, but there's a place for him on the bench, I'm sure. The next thing in the show doc says that Lewis Dunk is a cunt. Excellent point, whoever put that in there. I want to bring to the table, though. Yeah, I think we probably could have been any of the four of us, including Sam, the producer. But I want to bring to the table Shane Duffy, who is equally a C word. He was clearly so wound up by what we were singing yesterday that when they scored, I have never seen a reaction like it to the HF. Obviously, when Vardy scored that time and he did the Eagle impression, in retrospect, slightly funny, you could see how angry they were. So, end of the game, full on Lewis Dunk's a sex offender chance back in there. Beautiful. All you can do is reply. And they were celebrating, as Balassi said, a 1-1 draw like they'd won the league. which sums up Brighton, I think. So I think it was very hard to decide who was the biggest bell end of their team. You're right to pick out Morpie. You refuse to use his name, Si, but you're right to pick him out. Who was the most annoying Brighton player in the game? One word answer from the both of you. Si?
Oh, I hate his name. Morpie.
Nick?
Trossard, because he's good.
I thought the goalkeeper was up there as well. He was squared up to by MacArthur at the end. Very amusing stuff. I just want to finish discussion on the game by talking about our keeper, Guaita. Obviously, absolute legend of a man. And I'll delve into the listener comment. It's going to go over it the next bit, but just bring up the comments about the keeper. Tom at Tom CPFC just asked that we discuss him. And Hyam CD, has asked, is it time to bring Butland in? Interesting. I actually forgot who our goalkeepers were. Is it time to bring Butland in? I mean, it was a very high-profile miss, a bit like Ayu's miss. I thought Guaita had a decent enough game. Other than that, but obviously, what was it like on the TV? You'll have seen in much more detail than I could see the White Horse lane end from the Homesdale. So, Si, what was Guaita's game like?
It was solid. He was good with his feet. Other than that last-minute aberration, he was absolutely fine. And I know people of our parish have been saying on the WhatsApp chat that it's time for Butland, and I think that's a feeling that's growing amongst the fan base. Others felt he was spending too much time cooking paella at the Speroni's. But I think other than what
you can never spend too much time cooking paella at the Speroni's. Ridiculous comment.
I know.
I've ever said that.
Can you believe that?
Ridiculous comment.
I know. I think it's a one-off. He has occasionally made the odd mistake, but he saves us more times and saves points more times than he costs. And it was such a high-profile game. But no, I mean, I want to have some of that paella, to be honest. And you're right. You definitely can't cook too much of it. But no, I keep him. But there is a growing consensus, I think, a growing movement for Butland to come in.
Listen, you get invited over for dinner by Julian. You take it.
That's it.
Even if Guaita's secretly vegan, he takes down those clams like a man from his paella and he enjoys it. Ridiculous comments.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean...
Is that a euphemism? Take down those clams like a man?
It may well be. It may well be. And if that's the case, he's even luckier. But Butland, I mean, he wasn't in great form before he moved. As far as I know, I didn't keep particularly close eye on him in the Championship. But is it time to swap? If we're talking about the defence being solid and being the backbone of the team now, and that really does involve the goalkeeper and an understanding between the goalkeeper and the back two pairing in the middle. Chopping and changing, it's tough, isn't it, Nick?
It is. There's two thoughts I've got to this. First of all, chopping and changing. Well, they're all going to be in training, and they're all going to be training the same way, aren't they? So Butland is going to be used to playing in that system. I imagine that they swap over which keeper goes with which defensive partnership pairing in training sessions for the occasions when the keeper has got to change, or if the defence does have to change, so they're used to each other. With the guy, to think, I thought he had a brilliant match yesterday, apart from that one mistake. That's the thing with keepers, isn't it? You make a mistake and you can be really, really punished for it. But you could have a brilliant match otherwise. Look, if he's taken out and Butland comes in, it's going to mean one of two things. Butland might be brilliant, but think about Guaita. How's that going to affect his confidence in the next game? Is he going to be too scared to make a mistake because he doesn't want to be dropped again, which will mean he'll make more mistakes? Or, I don't know, it's the whole psychology of the thing, but don't come down on hard on him, because he's actually really getting into the new way that we're playing. Again, people around me, he was assured and calm when he was passing the ball around the back as well. He looked totally relaxed, even when Brighton players were pressed right up to the 6-yard area and he had the ball at his feet. He wasn't bothered. He just casually played it, pointing in one direction, passing it in the other. He was a lot more confident on crosses. I thought he caught a lot more yesterday than he usually does. he got onto the ball. It was one bad kick. Now, whether he slipped or not, okay, it's a bad kick, but there were also 3 defenders that didn't chase Maupay back, wasn't there? So it's not just him. So the fault, although the kick was shit, the fault also lies with the defence. So I think people are being a bit harsh. Keep him there and let him enjoy more clams.
You're right to bring up the psychology. He clearly has the right psychology for a goalkeeper. You have to be slightly unhinged, I think, to be a very successful goalkeeper. He has it, and I'm not sure that being dropped would phase him in the same way as it maybe did for Hennessy, for example. But I just can't see an argument for Butland being head and shoulders above Guaita in terms of talent. He's the best keeper I've ever seen at Palace in terms of technical skills. He might, he's not going to replace Speroni in people's hearts, but he is a step above the majority of keepers we've ever seen. Obviously, apart from Kalinko, who is still my number one in my heart. Let's not forget Remy Matthews as well. Yeah, let's not forget Remy Matthews, who, with the might of Yaroslav Yak in front of him against Sutton United, was absolutely dog shit.
It's all about Fraser Digsby for me.
Fraser Digsby, excellent. Well, this is an excellent talk down memory lane. Let's not forget the great man and his grey sweatpants as well. Right, we'll have a quick break and we'll come back with some listener feedback. Get your thoughts on some points people have raised, gentlemen. After this,
Alexa, play Back of the Nest podcast.
Playing Back of the Nest, CPFC podcast from Amazon Music.
Back of the Nest, now on your Alexa device and Amazon Music.
Thank you for that beautiful ad break, Sam. Very kind of you. Producer Sam, working overtime in their pyjamas today. Good stuff. Right, let's have some listener feedback. Thank you very much for getting in touch, whoever did. Obviously, some of you probably right after we've recorded the pods, but we try and cover everything. We certainly read everything we possibly can, and even the ones that have come in after we've recorded the pods often shape our next one. So keep them coming in. It's just nice to know that somebody's listening, really. Let's start with Elijah at Here for the Ops. What's the reason for managers to not start particular players over clearly inferior players? I'm curious. Interesting to know who you're thinking of there, Elijah. Si, who do you think Elijah's referring to, and what is the thought?
I think he's probably referring to the Ghanaian prince. And what I would say is you've got to trust the process, haven't you? And I think in Vieira we trust, and if he's starting the Ghanaian prince, that's because he thinks he adds something to the game that others don't. So I think we just got to trust Vieira's decision making. Yeah,
I mean, fair enough. Nick, is there anyone else you think he's referring to there? I mean, I'd love to see Nathaniel Klein in, but it's hard to justify him going in above Ward at the moment. I just think I'd just love Nathaniel Klein.
No, because it's been, as I've said over the past few games, even against Liverpool, it's hard to pick a man of the match because they've all been pretty good. We've had a few misplaced passes here and there. Gay's made the odd mistake, misplaced pass. So has Ward. Ayers missed a sitter. Benteke maybe could have scored a couple more. We could have a go at Edouard for not scoring yesterday against Brighton. We could have a go at Will Fur, perhaps keeping the ball a bit too much. I mean, they've all got their little foibles, but I think he's putting the best team out that he can. I mean, I can't wait to see Hughes because I'm sure he'd have done well in there yesterday. But the players that are out there are all doing well enough, I think. It's when they start getting tired, you need to start replacing them. And we're not getting to that point of the season where they're playing a lot of games at once. So, yeah, as he said,
we're already out of the League Cup, so that's okay as well.
Yes. But we're still in the Papa John's Trophy.
Yes, absolutely. And I look forward to the trip away to Portsmouth as well. Right, let's get on to the next bit of feedback from the ever-present Andy the Twat. I got the understanding of bringing both Benteke and Kouyaté. I mean, I didn't. This is Andy speaking, not myself, obviously. So when I say I, this is Andy, yes. I got the understanding of bringing both Benteke and Kouyaté on as Brighton started pumping long, high balls in. But what killed us was the lack of pressing once Edouard came off. He worked his socks off. Now, that probably brings back to what you were mentioning, Si, about the work rate that the commentators, who are still nameless, mentioned. But do you think that's lesson learned? He's used the word killed us there.
I think it's lesson
If
learned.
the answer to if the answer
you're right.
to pumping high long balls in is to mess with the front three, that seems a little bit strange to me. But yeah, your thoughts?
No, I think you're right. Spot on. I think, and the commentators nameless, identified that as well. I can't find them. I've been trying to find them, but no, I know. I also think the question from Andy the Twat is spot on as ever. It was a complete change in philosophy and psychology when those players were swapped, and I don't think that'll be a Vieira thing. I think that would just be a nerves, and I think Nick said earlier, nerves of the players, but definitely something changed when they came on, and I hope it's just a one-off because. I think Benteke's got a big part to play in the season, and I hope it's not a. I hope it's not a thing for the future. I hope it's just a one-off. The nerves of the occasion.
What I would say is, I think we're slightly scarred by the last, say, season, 2 seasons, and we associate these players that he brought on with an era that really affected some of us mentally, being able to enjoy football, and so. I think it's up to us to just sort of disassociate these memories we have with how the players are going to perform now, because they're totally different. Townsend talked about going to Everton, and he said something along the lines of the last 4 or 5 years he learned how to defend, and now he's reminding himself how to attack. These players are going to be doing something very different for Vieira. We need to remember that. But Lewis Adam Garcia did write in as a reply to Andy the Twat and said Benteke wasn't challenging aerially. We did only win 11 aerial challenges against Brighton's 15. What I will say is it's a freak game in that their back three they're an average of about 6'5", aren't they? They're absolutely enormous. So you've got Duffy, Dunk, and then Byrne, who's about 7'2". Like dinosaurs, enormous guys with very, very small brains, presumably. But yes, I mean, it's hard to win aerial battles with somebody that's half a foot taller than you, isn't it? Surely.
Can I add something in there to do with Andy the Twat 1992's question?
Yeah.
He's saying that he understands why he's brought them both on. Isn't it great that we've got a manager that is bringing players on to change the style of how we're playing rather than just having more of the fucking same, no matter what's happening? So you can see that PV's trying to affect change and change the way the game's going. So, all right, it's a plan B to defend, not a plan B to try and chase the game back. And look, I'll say it again, it was a freak mistake by the goal at the end. They didn't deserve. Well, perhaps looking at the stats, they did deserve to get a draw against us. But it was only that last bit in the last minute of the game that cost us. That will be the lesson learned. And I think people are going a bit mad because it is Brighton. They are, we do hate them.
Let's be honest. Neil Maupay doesn't deserve a point. He deserves to rot in the depths of hell. He certainly doesn't deserve to get anything from us. Richard
I agree with
Waters. Thank you. I would have thought his own mother agrees with him when she really thinks about it. I think Ayew is starting because he protects Ward. Wardy got turned around by Welbeck early doors. I mean, Welbeck did look very good, to be fair. And Ayew took a lot of that heat off for the rest of the match. Not sure Elise has the experience to have done the same. That is a really interesting point from Richard Waters. I think, Si, if we go with you there, because obviously you're watching it from a much wider perspective than either me or Nick could see the game.
So definitely, I think Ayew is in there for his defensive game, which is the thing that's a bit of a quandary for me because I can't work out why he's there given the rest of the philosophy of the team. But he's definitely there for that, and it might be because of Ward. And that's not a bad shout, but he's definitely there for his defensive qualities, which they did do a good job on Welbeck after that first moment. You're right, he was turned right at the beginning, but they did manage it well afterwards. And there's no way, Nick, they deserved a point. Even I can't do a Scouse accent, but if I could, I would. Even Jamie Carragher at the end of the game was saying that Brighton did not deserve anything from the game, and Palace were by far the better team. And if he's saying it, then I think we definitely can take that as a compliment and a fact.
In my defence, I did say, looking at the stats, it looks like they deserved a point. I didn't actually say they did deserve a point. So, can I come in there, Mike?
You certainly
can. On the whole Ayew thing, we've got a left back, right back, full back in Jeffrey Schlupp that can cover and possibly help Wardy out there. So I don't think it's just about Elise there, because Schlupp is also a winger and a fullback and can do that role. So, yeah.
How comfortable is Schlupp on the right?
Yeah, well, he was played out of position quite a lot under a previous manager whose name apparently I'm not going to mention anymore. I don't know, but Wilf can play on the right and Schlupp can play on the left. You know, it's easy. Wilf can play on both sides, so you know, Wolves. How many years has Wolf been there? We were trying to work it out last night. Is it something like 27 now? It's been there a long time.
It's his testimonial year this season.
It's 10 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't think it's just about Elise. I really think Elise is coming back from an injury, and PV and his management team and training team don't want to lack him. They don't want another Ferguson. They don't want another Operation Wickham, do they? So they're easing him in gently. And when you think about it, wearing the other teams down, if you've had a hard game against the Palace team that's pressing all the time, and you've got somebody like Elise who you don't really know yet because he's an unknown quantity in the Premier League, and he starts doing those sort of runs to you, it's a good thing to have to bring on.
Well, we'll just end with a comment from Paul Nash saying that this debate comes back to the often had argument about whether our attackers should provide defensive cover. He said, much as I love Ward, I think Klein should be playing. He's simply a better player, or at least has greater pace, and so doesn't need as much protection. Yeah, I think we'll find out what Vieira thinks once he's seen everyone play. Simple as that. Klein's had to, as you say, slowly get back fit as much as the others. So I'm sure we'll see him tinker a little bit, albeit we've only really got the FA Cup outside of the league to do that. Plenty of others have you got in touch, including Keith Powell and Pethos, wanted to both discuss the goalkeeping position. I hope that we have discussed what you wanted to discuss there or thereabouts, everyone that got in touch. So let's leave it there. I want to thank Nick and Si very much for joining me for this. And more than that, I'd love to thank Sam for producing. Thanks to everyone who got in touch. Whether we use your message or not, it's just so helpful. Please like, follow, subscribe to our social media accounts, especially the YouTube channel. I think even now, at this very second we record this pod, Dio and the gang are doing another show on YouTube. It's a whole new world that's opened up for us. So if you find us irritating, go and listen to Dio instead. He probably makes better points than we do. So the preview team will be back. We've got Leicester on Sunday, so they'll be back in a couple of days with a preview for that. Two home games in a row, so that's good stuff. We'll be back to review that probably Monday after the game. Thanks very much for listening, and until next time, come on, you Palace.